some people might be like watching this and they could relate. So I say todo locochon because it's all craziness. You know what I mean? Back then when we were cruising the streets or walking the streets, it was all craziness. And then I described the cars like the way I look at the cars. It's like all craziness. You know, all locochon. You know what I mean? Like it's just the only way I know. I've always been around it because of my cousins again, you know. My dad was never around, so, you know, I'm always going to bring up my cousins because I kind of grew up with them. They always were older, you know, and they were already working on cars and doing metal work. But this was down in Mexico, so I was born here, but in the summer my mom used to send me down to Mexico and hang in, you know, that's where I like, you know, kind of hung out all summer long. It's not like here, you know, you don't have a bunch of swap meets to go and fix up your cars, and the money's less over there, you know. So it was like, you know, they just put stuff together, you know, and that's it, cruise around. They weren't really restoring the car, and they weren't really like, oh, I'm doing a custom. No, they were just like, oh shit, this bumper looks good on here, let me put it on there. You know what I mean? That's where I learned from it, you know. I can't, that's all I can ever remember as a kid, you know, just watching that shit, and I thought it was cool. There was no rules, you know. That's what Lokochon is, on me. It's like, you ain't got no fucking rules on me. It's like, let's fucking do this shit, right? You know? Like, that's what Lokochon is, bro. Like, straight up. Like, you Lokochon because you're craziness. I mean, you ain't following the rules. You're just doing whatever you think is cool and you like it. My first car was like a Datsun 510, you know, which some people got into like Volkswagens, and mine was a Datsun 510, which it was like the enemy of the Volkswagens and shit. That's all I could ever afford, you know. I used to get a 510 for like $300, you know what I mean? So my first 510, you know, I shaved the door handles, and I've always looked at like the Hot Rod and Custom magazine, you know. I always liked the section where it was like getting worked on, because it reminded me of when I was a little kid hanging out with, again, my cousins and stuff. You know, they were always just like cruising around in primer cars. My cousin Chalo was a really good metal man, you know, so everybody come to him to fix up cars, and he was kind of like my idol too, because he was like the oldest, and he looked all locochon all the time, you know, because he was just like everybody. They call him El Loco, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like, you know, where I started getting into it. I fixed up my Datsun like a custom, you know, and swapped motors out and hot rodded. That's all I could ever do, because like I said, nobody handed me down nothing, you know. I got so far into like the little Datsun cars that, you know, I forgot like, oh shit, now I can afford a car, you know what I mean? Like, you know, a domestic old car. I did a trade with a friend. I traded him a car, and his dad had his 59. What was it, a C10 in his backyard. We did some trade with some Datsun stuff, you know, and I took the truck, and, you know, I thought I was gonna redo it all. This is back, when I was like 20, dude. And I thought I was gonna restore the whole thing all fast, and then I realized that it takes a lot more money to do it, you know what I mean? So I was like, I did a little bit, some of the metal stuff, and then, you know, ended up traded it for something else. Anyways, that was like the beginning where I was like, start getting into old cars, but a lot of my friends weren't really into like the old cars, you know. So I had to just kind of do it all on my own and stuff, because my cousins were down in La Paz. Some of them passed away and stuff. But I used to rent this little studio, and I'm gonna take you further back. And I didn't have like shade or anything, so I used to come home and wait until the sun come down, and then put some lights outside, and then work on my car. And I used to have gravel, so I'd bring cardboard boxes and I'd put them, around so I can be able to work and not feel the gravel on my knees. So then it's like, all right, fuck, I need to make things better. Let me get a little house so I can, have a garage so I can work on the cars. I started building hot rods, because they're easier to build. You don't need that much space, a lot of it's not really whole lot of fabrication. It's just kind of like, putting stuff together. So it was easier for me to build hot rods. So I went and got a Model A, and I put it together. Model A Roadster. It wasn't really a Roadster. It was like a beat down Model A, and I turned it into a Roadster. You know what I mean? I, made something out of that. This was years ago. I just wanted an old car, dude, just to cruise around, and I didn't care if it was a primer or different parts of different anything. People expected like an old car to be restored, fully restored. Oh, you can't drive it until it's all restored. And I'm like, fuck that, I want to drive it right now, you know what I mean?
What did you do after the Model A?
Well, I did another Model A and another Model A, and I did like a sedan, and I used to do nothing but Model A's. The Model A's are cool, dude, because they're just fun to drive, dude. Any hot rod with no fenders, you know what I mean? Like a car with no fenders on it. If you like cars, dude, they're fun to drive. Watching the wheels spin in front of you and shit like that. Just whipping it around, dude. It's just fun. You know what I mean? So, what it is that it's just there's always levels of like putting shit together. You put something together and it's like, oh, that shit was cool. Oh, let me get into something deeper. It's like you want to take it to another level. Shit, it's like fuck. Let me just, let me go find the most fucked up car, and I want to see if I can fucking build it. That's kind of like how it is for me. I'm just trying to find the most fucked up car so I can have the most fun in it. When I moved out of the garage and got a shop, it was like, oh shit, now I can set it up how I want to work, you know what I mean? Instead of just having like a 2-car garage space, now I can move on and build something better. So that's when I went into customs and like start doing more customs. I knew I could chop a car, but it was just like, I can't chop a car in my garage, my 2-car garage. Well, I was chopping Model A's, and then I started chopping like more 50s when I got my own garage, like shop. The first car I got more into doing modifications, it'd probably be like the Purple Cruiser, Sometimes you wait until the right features come along. For me, that's kind of how it was. Which is like the grille, the headlights, tail lights, and then you got like, the shape of the car and stuff, right? That's one of the hardest thing to do when you're like trying to do like an old style custom today, is finding the features. Because back then, when the guys were doing it back then, they had a junkyard full of cars, Now we don't have a junkyard full of cars. Now we got to go to the swap meet and find some of the parts, or if you know somebody that's got some parts, or but with the culture vultures, that makes it even harder. Like a lot of people caught on to the old style customs when it was like, again, going back, a lot of people didn't know about it. So you can find a set of headlight bezels and be like, oh yeah, I can make these fit. Oh, how much? $10. Now it's like, oh, this guy's a custom guy, let me just sell it to him for $300. Like, to walk walk in the door and be like, oh shit, there's a sick customer over there. Oh shit, there's another sick customer over there. Oh fuck, this is my shop. You know, that was like my dream, to walk in and see primer cars, bare metal cars, and you know, had nothing to do with anything else. That's just, as a little kid, that's what I wanted it to look like. And I always talked about like, man, one day I'm gonna have a custom shop, dude. It's gonna be sick, dude. We're gonna build customs and shit. I would tell some of my friends and shit. What should I name the shop? You know, I used to say, and then say, oh, name it Bellows, you know? Like, some of my friends have said that. I was like, yeah, we'll see, you know? That sounds kind of dorky, though, you know? We talk like that and stuff. But when it came down to it, it's like, it's just kind of stuck with it, Bellows, you know what I mean? And I don't think, like, you know how, like, people say, oh, Bellows, beautiful customs? It's like, no, I don't think of beautiful customs. To me, Bellows just sounds like Bellows. What I like about putting a custom together is to do it like old style, you know, on the exterior of it. Because today's date, right here in California, dude, we have to haul ass. You know what I mean? If not, you're just that old car in a way. So we put modern suspension, modern engine, or a little bit newer engine. You know, on the undercarriage, it's like, you know, disc brakes mandatory. You gotta have brakes. And then try to keep the exterior of it, you know, old style, custom, which is, you know, only use parts that, you know, that were on old cars back then. I like to put cars together when I like go to the swap meet and find a part, like literally piece it together and make it something. To me, that's like the best build. It's like the best fucking build, dude. I have more fun building something like that, because you're like, oh shit, you found another piece of the car. Oh shit, you know, I'm gonna use this. And that to me is like the best build when you put it together. It's like, my whole idea is to build fucking clean cars, nice. And then when you know, a lot of people get the wrong idea about clean. You know, you can build a clean car, but it's shitty engineering, you know, like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, you know, but it's shiny, you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's like clean, you know what I mean? What I'm thinking, what I build is like, alright, this car is gonna be in a dark alley, shit, chilling, you know what I mean, against a brick wall with just one spotlight over it, you know what I mean, like waiting for something to happen. I guess it's like the mentality that you have as a kid of growing up, you know, because that's how it was. Like you're walking down the street and shit, and then you see a bunch of homies and shit, all penalties and shit. Like, fuck, some shit's gonna go down right now, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's like, oh shit, dude. That's how I grew up, you know, and that's how I describe like the cars. I like Carapilla, man. We kind of like hit it off because to me, Carapilla is like the real deal. He's like a true car guy. Carapilla got his first old car, and it was a Model A, which he still drives. That's just like his baby, you know, La Carcancha, he calls it. He got his first old car in 1969, dude. I wasn't even born yet, you know what I mean? And that right there in 1969 was already an old car. So he's been into old cars since 1969. When people were buying brand new cars, you know, off the lot, which now they're old cars, you know, he had already had a Model A, dog, like in 1969. Like, you know, it's like, that's what's cool about it. He's like the real shit. Like, he's kind of my helper, but not, I don't really consider him my helper. He's more like my friend, you know, like that we do work on cars. If I would say he's my helper, then everyone would just label him, you know. But if we're just like working on cars at the shop, we're like friends working in front of the house. You know what I'm saying? It's more like a mental thing for me, I guess. You know what I mean? When I was the helper, it was like, go get that shit or go get this. It's like, stop standing around. It's like, and it was cool. It was like, I was on it. I was like, yeah, it was like rough love, rough. I don't know. I mean, nowadays you tell the helper like, what the fuck, homie? You just standing there? And they're like, shut down and like leave. It's not personal, you know. It's just tough love, I guess, you know. And he's kind of like, he's obviously from the old school too. So I was kind of like that when I was a helper. You know, they yell at me, like basically call you worthless. But to me, it didn't matter. Like, I'm right where I want to be. Like, I have a lot of respect for him, you know what I mean? And he truly loves cars. He truly is where he wants to be when he's at the shop, just like me, you know. and it's really rare when you find people like that. I have probably 2 of them, but they're not really bad. It's kind of like careless injuries, but that's how you learn how not to be careless. I was drilling the panel like this, and I was holding it like this, and I had the drill like this, and the drill bit broke, and then the drill bit went right into my arm right here, and went oh, and like literally like pulled the skin out, you know, like if it was drilling a piece of wood, you know. It's probably like the worst injury I had, but when I do get injured now, it really pisses me off. You know, it like, what the fuck? Like, dude, you been doing this shit for how long? You know, you still get hurt? For the guys that do work with their hands, I'm sure they think this too. It's like you start off like with no cuts on your hands, and then you cut yourself, and then the whole time you're working on the car, you're like, fuck, that shit is stinging. It's like the car is making you sting. You know what I mean? It's like the whole time, and now it's just stinging now. You know? It's just like, now I'm screwed for the rest of the day. You know, it's like one of those things like, dude, I know there's fools out there that think that, you know, like, shit, now I'm hurt for the rest of the day. You know, especially if it starts out in the morning, you're like, fuck. One of my favorite builds, you know, is my 36 Ford and stuff, and I built some cool cars for some people and stuff, but yeah, like the Merc and, you know, 36 Ford. Those cars you don't get tired of building, because every time you build it, it's like you do something a little bit different, you know, and it's just the body style of it, you know. The Purple Cruiser, the 53 Chevy, that's a super cool one, you know what I mean? It's one of my first finished cars. Every build is like different because, you know, every build you learn something newer. You know what I mean? Like, you know something, you learn something newer, so you get a little bit more better at it, I guess. You know, the more you do it, the better you get. So I'm building another 36 Ford and 40 Mercury, personal ones. You know, kind of like take my time with them. You know, don't rush it.
Full custom, chopping.
Yeah, kind of like full custom. Full custom would probably be like, you know, headlights, taillights, doing full modifications on it. You know, that's not really like what I like to do with my cars. But yeah, I guess you could say that.